Bullshit. Sit down, get comfortable. We about to talk about the Montford Marines, first black Marines to serve in the United States Marine Corps. The year is 1939. Adolf Hitler had just invaded Poland, and America and its allies were like, all right, we better beat his ass. 2 years later, 1941, America is like, you know what? We're about to prepare to enter World War II. Whenever there's a war, you need bodies. The president of the United States at the time was Franklin D. Roosevelt, and he had an issue because racial discrimination for hiring in the defense industry was the norm at this time. But civil rights leaders were beginning to organize. And now we talk about Philip Randolph. He was a civil rights leader from 1889 to 1979. He led the first African American labor union. Philip Randolph and his supporters were planning a march on Washington to apply pressure to the president at the time, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Look at this boy's face. He stood on business. Not only was the president at the time, Franklin D. Roosevelt, resisting, but so was the 17th Commandant of the United States Marine Corps, General Thomas Holcomb. You ever had your girl just nag at you till you were like, God damn, okay, what do you want? You just willing to do whatever she wants so she can stop nagging? You know what I'm saying? Well, this is Eleanor Roosevelt, the wife at the time of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. And as the march grew closer, she applied so much pressure to her husband that he conceded. June 25th, 1941, just a week before they were about to take the march on Washington, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 8802, prohibiting discrimination in the defense industry or in government. So now the defense industry and government could no longer hire based on race, creed, color, or national origin. June 1st, 1942, just a year after the executive order was signed, the Marine Corps began their recruitment for black men to join the United States Marine Corps. With a 900-man quota that was quickly met, the first black recruits arrived in Montford, North Carolina. Just a few miles away from Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, is where they conducted their training, in an area that costed $14 million to construct. When Montford was first established, everyone in charge was white. Obviously, right? But the Marine Corps' goal was to train the black Montford Marines to be in charge of the future black recruits. As these black recruits were now becoming the first black Marines in the United States Marine Corps out of Montford, North Carolina, remember I told you the 17th Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Thomas Holcomb, did not like the idea of African Americans joining the United States Marine Corps. General Thomas Holcomb supported segregation. He supported segregation so much that he came out and said in 1942 that if it was a question whether he had to take a Marine Corps of 5,000 whites or a Marine Corps of 250,000 Negroes, he'd rather the whites. By late 1943, the staff had chosen the black Marines that would be the instructors over the black recruits in Montford, North Carolina. This is Archibald Mosley, one of the first black recruits to become one of the first black Marines out of Montford, North Carolina. And he stated in an interview that when the black Marines took over as instructors for the black recruits, that they were more harsh on the black recruits than the white instructors were. Let me just tell you a little bit about Archibald Mosley, okay? He served as a weapon instructor before deploying to Guam and Iwo Jima, where he delivered ammunition to the front lines. In 1945, Mosley deployed to Nagasaki, Japan, where the Montford Marines were assigned to clean up after the atomic bomb was dropped. Mosley received numerous medals for his service, delivered decades after he was honorably discharged in 1946. In 2012, the Montford Marines were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, the highest civilian award presented by Congress, in a ceremony Mosley attended at the U.S. Capitol. Colonel Samuel A. Woods was the first commander at Montford, North Carolina, and he mandated that the black recruits at Montford receive the same training as the white recruits in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, because he believed any soldier anywhere will respond to their duties if treated like a human being, and this goes for Negro soldiers as well. This is Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Carpenter. He was the first African American data systems officer in the United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Carpenter trained in Montford in 1943, and he stated that the black Marine instructors were determined for them to succeed and become real Marines. He said they had one goal: to train us to be the best and to be better than everyone else. In World War II, the Montford Point Marines fought in the battles of Saipan, Peleliu, Guam, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. The Montford Point Marines also served in all major campaigns of the Korean War. Did you know that? Not only that, during the Vietnam War, the Montford Point Marines were also a part of the siege of Khe Sanh and the Tet Offensive. And now you know who the Montford Point Marines of North Carolina were, as long as we track them.